Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome back to episode two. Wow, episode two of He Loves Me Not, my juicy personal podcast that I cannot believe is out. I've had this idea for so long now. So to see it alive and to hear the comments and all the reviews, it's been so amazing. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted questions and asked for advice. I didn't get as much as I thought, and I wanted to do a bigger episode with all of those questions. So I'll wait till some more come in. The ones I have though are juicy, but I want to grab enough to do like a whole answer of just Q&A. So keep on sending links to the email or not links, sending questions to the email or DM them to me on Instagram. And yeah, thank you for the support. This show has been so much fun to do and plan. And I was thinking about today and thinking about going in order. Just to recap, episode one was swiping my V card, my very first time, my first love. We got into that story. So technically, I want to like pick off from there and get into my second love, which in life, which is actually Todd. So a lot of you guys, if you are new to the channel or if you are familiar with the channel or just really close with me in real life, then you know about my relationship with Todd and losing him and how that shaped my life. All of that was kind of here on this YouTube channel. So that's what I freaking love about YouTube and life and all the things because with the first love, I was so young, and it was YouTube was around, but I wasn't doing it. But I was for the second love. So instead of me telling this whole story about how Todd changed my entire life and some of the things that I went through with him, you guys have to watch the Todd and Nigel love story time that I made actually right after he passed. I'm gonna still recap his story with mine and how he shaped my life and connected to the first episode and all that because all of it really does tie into each other. And also, it's just a little bit more interesting because my thoughts have not changed, but they have evolved and I have more things to say now that some time has gone. But what I did is I watched the Todd and Nigel love story time that I created shortly after he passed. And I'm sorry, but like pat on my own back because I those videos, both the ones I created to deal with my mom's grief and the Todd grief, were not for anybody but me. Like I needed somewhere to talk, someone to talk to, somewhere to vent, and I chose YouTube. And it was literally like a film post and go. I've never went back and watched those vlogs because there are vlogs that I created when my mom passed and when Todd passed that really get into detail about how I feel in the moment. And along with those videos, I created that story time with Todd and I go through the whole story. So I was like, before I sit down and tell the whole story, I was like, let me see if that video is good enough to refer to. And it 100% is. Like I said, I'm going to get into him and I's relationship today in pretty good detail. But I don't think it'll ever match the detail that's in that video because that's really close to the day that I lost him and everything was really, really fresh. Now, since he has passed, I've done the reality show. I've fallen in love again. I lost my mom. I've dealt with even harder grief than his. So, so like now the story's like it's hard to know all the details because now I've been through some other things. Um, but it's fresh in the Todd and Nigel storytime video. So I'm gonna link it down below, link it up below, up above, anywhere that this episode is available. I'm gonna kind of like merge it with that story because it's like a 30-minute story time and it tells the whole story from beginning to end. But so, welcome back. I need to put that little disclaimer because I need people to, if you want all the details, you can get them from that video just because, like I said, this will be more of a recap. So, yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's been so exciting getting into all these relationship details and some of these moments that really changed my life. So, where we left off, obviously, was the first relationship that I had with a jock. And then I was thinking earlier, like, I didn't even really say how funny, like, I'm going to talk about like three main loves that I've had, and all of them have played or can't play wrestling. Can you play? No. Uh, they do wrestling, and what's the other one? Oh my gosh, football. Football and wrestling. All of them have done. So, very interesting fact there that I was thinking about. So, we left off with the first love and me getting through that, which was an adventure within its own. And, watching back the video of the first episode, and even watching back the Todd and Nigel Storytime video that I just watched before getting into this video, um, like it's just such a moment to just give myself that little pat on the back, because I think like to experience things is one thing, but to hear it back and be like, oh, that was me, like it really, really puts things into like a different perspective to be getting into some of the details of these stories. And it's been helping me, which was the goal all along. Like for all these videos, and the idea of this whole entire project was literally very much like, what do I need to talk about to feel better? What do I need to get off my chest? What puzzle pieces do I need to connect with in my life? And it'll always be love. It'll always be this. So it just made sense to do this. So I'm very excited to get into this next part, because this was one of the deepest, most personal relationships that I've ever had to date. And it's so crazy because years have passed, and that's what I meant by I have new things to say, because everything I say in that Todd and Nigel video that I made close to when he passed over 2 years ago now still feel the same. Like I have met so many people, and I've dated, had a lot of other relationships, and still like there was a fire there that I cannot replace, I cannot duplicate. And again, it just brings like kind of like just a sense of gratitude. Like now I'm lucky that at this point in the healing process that I can do that. I can, instead of be really sad and like going to the voicemails and sobbing on the floor and like really, really feeling the pain, now it just leans towards more towards gratitude, because when I explain my relationship with him to other people, they're like, damn, like no one's ever done that with me. Like no one's ever called me that much. No one's ever left me those voicemails or wrote me those letters or did this. I'm like, oh, okay. So I had something truly special. Like, and it just, every time I talk about this story and him and the things that he did, it just really just shows the fact that it was something truly special. And I'm so lucky to have gone through it. So Todd and I met via Instagram, and he DM'd me. And after, going back and forth, me liking his pictures, and vice versa. And at that time I was doing a lot of drag. So he was like liking all my drag pictures, like of course, because like she was that bombshell. Everyone loved her. So he essentially like fell for her. And I was like, okay, like if you're gonna be with her, like you have to meet up with me first, type of thing. And I met up with him as me, and that was the end. Like we fell for each other, and we just continued to see each other with me, not ever in drag. He just fell for me for who I was. And that was the beginning of like me being cared for as myself and not like in drag. I will definitely probably make another whole episode and video just about the relationships and hookups that I've had in drag, because a lot of those instances really did shape my life, and they kind of were happening all while I was with Todd, because we had like an unheard of kind of open relationship that I didn't even want on my part. It was just more so that he was so promiscuous that I might as well just do what I want, because he was always doing what he wants. But of course, like I wanted to be together. Like I was like the hopeless romantic, but never got like the official just us. He was just so well loved and so lovable that he did his thing. Like literally, when we met, he had a girlfriend, and he was cheating on his girlfriend with like a his girlfriend's best friend. It was a mess. And I had met him right at that time. So I knew exactly what type of guy he was trying to portray himself to be, but I was immediately intrigued to know who was he really. And I kept on just thinking how familiar he felt. I remember as soon as he DM'd me the first time after we were liking our pictures and all that, it just felt like we had spoken before. It felt like we had done this before, and that feeling was re- repeated like over and over throughout our relationship. And we spoke about it many times as well, that everything just felt like we had done it before, which is a really eerie, like, universal phenomenon. I don't know if anyone's like gone through that before, where it's so much different than getting to know somebody on dates after date after date and hookup after hookup after hookup. It's a whole different feeling to meet somebody for the first time in person, or even message them for the first time online and immediately feel like I've done this before, like I've interacted with you before, like we have crossed paths before. It's a very eerie feeling, but also exciting because you're not starting new, you're picking up where you left off, per se. And that was something that I really was grateful for. And it was exciting that like he agreed. So like when I eventually, into 1 out of the 8 years that we were together, I eventually brought that up. Like he immediately was like, yes, like I was thinking the same thing, like definitely. But when we originally started hanging out, it was just so cozy and it was so cute. And he was never, for somebody who, like, was with girls and all that, he never seemed like confused. Like, it was very much like, okay, like, yeah, like that's what I've done. This is what I am. But like, I like you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was very much like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to fight it. And he was just like the cutest thing because it was different than the first romance that I had had, where he was beautiful and he knew he was beautiful. And I treated him like a beautiful person. And he kind of gave me that look and that feeling back, like, you, like, I'm not going to tell you you're beautiful, but you know that you're beautiful because you're with me. That's the type of guy my first relationship was like. With Todd, it was constant reminders as to why I was beautiful, constant messages, constant interrupting whatever I was saying just to be like, wow, like, you're beautiful. Like, I can't believe how gorgeous you are. Like, ugh, it would make me melt. And to this day, like, gone on some great dates, had some great lovers, but cannot match his charisma and his his game, to be honest. Like, it was just like he had me wrapped around his finger. And luckily so, like, it was like vice versa. Like, I was so into him and he was so into me, and it was just so so hot. Like, it was just fire all the time, like, just strong attraction. And in the beginning of our relationship and hanging out, like, it started off so cutesy because he was still trying to maintain like that masculine kind of like straight kind of like vibe. So we had only discussed him being a top and like me being a bottom. And luckily, because we were together so long and we kept like unraveling each other more, he was totally part of the the renaissance and growth era of my top era, because which went on forever, because he was always the one who wanted to like mix it up. Like, he was like, let's try this, let's do that, like very experimental. And I was just like along for the ride. And I'll never forget the one night I army crawled on the floor over to the bed. And what I did is like a little flip onto my back. And then I had his face was like leaning over kind of, and then his hand was hanging off of the bed. So I used the index finger and used the fingerprint to open up the phone, and I checked all the messages on all the apps, all the DMs, all the text messages, all the emails, everything. I don't care. I checked everything. I needed to know. I had questions and I found every answer that I needed. It was juicy, but it was also one of the worst nights of my life because some of the things that he was into, like I didn't even know existed. And I was like, it was jaw dropping. Not only to find out like what he was into, but to find out some of the kinks and fetishes that existed in the world in general. Like that's how shocking this content was and these messages were and everything that I found. But among all the craziness, I found things that I did like, and I was like, oh, like if you like this, like I want to do this with you. So me being sneaky and him being extra promiscuous and juicy really led to like everything that I like kinky, everything that I like that's part of that world that I indulge in. And those, a lot of things within that world bring me so much happiness right now. So I always like low key like thank him for that day. Like I shouldn't have had to do all that work to figure out what he was doing on the side and like what he was into. But I'm so glad I was brave enough to do that because it like and I called him out on all of it too. And it just helped. It helped because then it was like, I can't believe you're doing this. Like I want to try that. Like so it really just brought us closer. But I'll never forget that that happened. Like that was like a highlight in the relationship for sure. And I don't think that part is in the other story time video. So there's like an exclusive there. Um, Also, along with the fact that on that promiscuous level, another cute little side story is the night one of his birthdays, he had another guy over, and like I guess I don't fucking know, like forgot he double booked, and I showed up to celebrate his birthday with him, and the guy was like chilling on the bed, like in my spot, and I was so upset, like threw a whole fit, and ended up leaving. Um, and I wrote a song about it, and it's so funny because it's one of my favorite songs ever. It's actually so my first single in drag was co-written by somebody with another producer, but my second single, All Over You, was all me, and that's because I wrote it after that I walked in and saw that guy on the bed. So again, like just grateful. Like I know like crazy stories at the time, and like it's so crazy to smile and tell it this way because it was one of the hardest nights of my life. Like I remember crying on the way home um after that night. But that's the whole point of like this podcast and like everything in general right now is because I've gone through other things like now certain things like aren't as traumatic. And I've said this so many times before, like after losing my mom, like the relationship stuff is cake. Like I haven't cried over a boy since I lost my mom. Like the grief of my mother has taken over every other darkness. So trying to get me like guys getting me to cry is not gonna happen anymore, I don't think. So now I get to tell this story like with a smile on my face. But at the time, it was the hardest pain in my life, like literally seeing him choose another person like in front of me, type of deal. But again, like it created art and I'm so grateful for that. And like see that theme, my first relationship, everything I went through, I told you when it finally ended, I created that mix CD and I started the drag world and that brought me here. And then this happened. And then the faults of this relationship happened and it showed me like all the things I liked in the kink world. It showed me that I could write my own music. I didn't know that I could apply that pain to art like in that way. I had never written a song before. So I had written my other single and I put that out. And then I think around that time also, like I really started picking up on the YouTube and it was always great because from the beginning, like he was my number one cheerleader, along with my mom, and we celebrated so many milestones together. And I want to say, like around the time where like I walked in on him and that guy, that was closer to when things like were really ramping up. I think I was at like 30 or 40,000 subscribers on YouTube, and so when he started hanging out with that other guy, I kind of like let that happen. And the reason for that is, and this is also in a detail of the other video, his issues that he had, which made things difficult dating. So with that being said, I was always kind of looking for a way out, like without a doubt, even with all the love that was there and everything that I cherished with all my heart, there was so much toxicity and I was always looking for a way out. So when that guy came in and that happened, I left and I wrote that song and I kind of went off, started like going off on YouTube, like 3, 4 videos a day, like really focusing on YouTube. And they ended up getting into like a real relationship that did go public, which was very heartbreaking to me because I had never gone public with him for as long as I was with him because it was just so chaotic and he had so much going on and I didn't want to be seen with someone who was going through that much. Honestly, I had a different vision of how I was seen if I were to be in a relationship with someone in the public eye, and like he was not it for me. And the other one was fine with it. So they went public and they were all over like Facebook and social media together. And I was home pumping out videos and just trying to stay focused. And that was really the beginning of more just turning pain into art, which I'm so proud of. So much of what I built is that, you know, grief and darkness and pain and heartache flipped into something great, whether it be music or videos, podcasts, or anything. I really have tried to master that per se, but it was a very interesting journey with him and I learned so much. And because of everything I've gone through, like I said, it's so blurry because of so much that has topped on top of his trauma that he gave me. um but one of the most craziest stories is definitely the hospital story, and all of my friends would refer to it as that because so one night I was out in Philadelphia and he was out as well, and my friends at this point in the relationship, like they knew he wasn't good for me. And this is really like around the time like he was talking to that person, like this new person that he had chosen over me. Um and I saw him out in the city, and what ended up happening was he was at one club, I was at another club across the street with my friends who knew who he was, knew that I was trying to take a break from him and get away from him and all that. And I was out, I think finally, like I had went out to party, like to take a break from doing YouTube because I was doing like a solid, like probably like months and months of YouTube without hanging out or socializing at all. Like, and I would do that a lot to like hustle. And I think I finally took a break and went out. And that night he was out and he was at another bar. And I really wanted to see him, obviously. And I told my friends that I was like, you know, like stepping outside for air. And I actually like ran across the street to the other bar. And long story short, because this is one of the more traumatic events in my life, I don't want to get into everything, but um he basically like in the spirit of trying to like have fun, he gave me a shot that had a substance in it, and basically like the amount that he put was all like basically what he put you were supposed to have a drop of, and he put the whole thing in there. So I was, you know, I ran across the street. I just wanted to see him. I do remember that part. Seeing him was really beautiful. Like we made out in the bathroom of the bar that I met him at, and it was just beautiful. Anytime I was with him, we were very connected. But then that moment happened where he was like, "Oh, you know, let's have a shot," and didn't say anything about what was in there, and kind of just wanted me to have fun type thing, and thought I'd be okay with it. But shortly after he gave me that, he had to link back up with the person he came with. So as soon as I start to feel a little off, the new person is there and they're like linked up and walking away. So like my last moment of blurry like vision and last moments of like consciousness was watching them walk away in the club. And then I woke up in the hospital. So that was a very horrific, traumatic experience. Luckily, my friends were there. I later found out that I like blacked out on this substance at the club, and unfortunately, security threw me out into the alleyway, and a friend found me in the alleyway, and then they were able to get me like transported to the hospital, and I woke up in the hospital, and literally the nurse was like, what you were given, like you shouldn't have woke up." And that line changed my life forever. I remember when I left the hospital, I left my hospital bracelet on for weeks because that was my reminder to like not call him. Like, because at that point it was clear this was dangerous now. And nothing had harmed me. He had never like harmed me. Nothing had ever bad happened from being around the dangers of him yet. But now with this was like a final like, you need to get out. So that really started to separate us, because even after I ended up taking the hospital bracelet off, I did see him, of course. I was still in love, and but it was like so much less. And I started to like because I was going over there like 4 or 5 nights a week before that. Like it was heavy. And that was going on for years. But after that incident, I did like kind of start like doing my own thing more and growing my channel and getting into like the art, the things that were art to me more. Um, which was really good. But it led into him passing away. And one of the nights, the night that he passed away, was a night that he invited me over, and I had chose to focus on what I want to do, you know, my art and the things that I want to grow. And he passed away. So I always have to live with that regret, or like, you know, if I chose to still go hot and heavy all those years, towards the end, I could have gotten all these memories with him before he passed away. But I wouldn't have, you know, my videos and the following that I built on YouTube and stuff, and all the work that I put into that, I wouldn't have if I went with him more. But then I would have more memories to show. It's just like a whole. When you lose people, you always think like, oh, what if it went this way? What could I do different? So I'm constantly like rearranging, the universe and thinking about what I could have did different. What would have been like if I went to him that night that he passed away and I didn't do videos that night, like per se, like would he still be here type thing? Like who knows? But yeah, but it's this really interesting thing where even without him, and same thing goes for my mom. I feel, you know, and this right here, like this is love, is what I'm about to explain right now, because that's how I know is real. They're both gone, and that sensation of them supporting me and everything that I do is stronger than I've ever felt it. And the sensation of them supporting me on my endeavors is sometimes stronger than people who are living, and like I can hear them breathing and they talk to me and they support me in person. The sensation of them two gone and how much they love and supported my hopes and dreams, I can still feel that warmness. In reference honestly to getting on the reality show for Love Dose and winning it, I've gotten so many compliments and congratulations from so many friends and family members and lovers and everything, everyone and everything. I was so grateful, but somehow I know for sure, oddly enough, Todd is the most proud. My mom is the most proud, obviously above him. Um, but them two are the most proud, and I guess I'm the only one who would know that. Like, I wish, I mean, it's just something I just knew. You can see, knowing them both so personally and speaking to them about my own hopes and dreams, like they were the two who never like batted an eye. Like I've had a lot of crazy hopes and dreams, and I love to watch people's reactions to some of the things that I want to do in life. And I judge the way people support. So them, but those two always flying colors. Like I could say the craziest, and they were already mapping out a plan with me. Like it was in an intense amount of support and love, that also I carry with me into all future things that I do. And I wouldn't be where I am today without him. And I know he's so excited to have a whole episode um, kind of about him and about the love that he gave me and how it connects to the first love, and that connects to getting on the show and finding the third. Like it's very, very interesting how, life works that way. And you know, with each one, I just never thought it would be over. Like when I finished the first, I never thought that would end, and I never thought I would find anyone else. So when I did finally have Todd, it was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know I'd ever be here again. I thought this feeling would ever only come one time. So when it came a second, excuse me, when it came a second, I was so grateful. And that's where the gratitude comes with having lost him. It's just being like, wow, okay, it happened. I'm just glad it happened. And that's that. But I love you guys for watching. I love you for listening. Don't forget, I'm going to give you the link to that story. It shows a lot more detail, a lot more love. But I also just wanted to recap it like 2025 version and throw some new things out there. But it's a part of my life. And for sure, the hospital story hasn't been told. So that'll be interesting to get the thoughts on. So let me know what you think. I want to know what you guys think about this podcast series so far, some of the things that are happening within it, and what do you want to see going forward? All right. I love you guys. Have a beautiful day.